Alright, so I decided to watch the Left Behind movie with Nicolas Cage and Chad Michael Murray because why not? Really quick before we start, I am ill, so if I look ill, sound ill, that's why. I feel so sick that, have you ever felt so sick that you feel intoxicated even though you're completely sober? That's how I feel, but it actually fits the theme because this movie is a fever dream, so it fits. This movie, I watched it for the first time a couple years ago, and it was honestly like a comedy to me because it was right after I deconstructed, not right after, but a bit after, and the Rapture Theology did not scare me anymore, so it honestly just was a comedy to me. But Nicolas Cage and Chad Michael Murray being in this movie was is the cherry on top for me because I used to love Chad Michael Murray because of One Tree Hill, if you guys have ever watched that. And I think it's called A Cinderella Story with Hilary Duff or Cinderella. I think it's Cinderella Story. Those two were like comfort watches for me. And another comfort watch for me was National Treasure. I loved Nicolas Cage in that movie. For the longest time, that's all I knew him from. Like, I didn't know him from anything else. On top of that, me and my friends have done a Nicolas Cage Power Hour many times. Don't ask me why. I'm not going to expand on that, but 10 out of 10, I do recommend.
No, not the beast! Not the beast!
So let's just get into it. The movie starts off with this girl at the JFK airport. She is calling her mom and her mom is like, welcome home. Basically, she's there to visit her family. And her mom says, but your dad's not going to be home because he has to work again. So they set it up like her dad's some kind of like avoidant or workaholic. She basically goes to find her dad after that because her dad is a pilot and he's flying out from the JFK airport because I think that's like his home base. And in the show, then, after she is, like, off the phone with her mom, they show Chad Michael Murray. His name is Cameron in this movie, and basically people are going up to him asking for autographs and all this stuff because he's some kind of author or journalist, and he writes books or pieces about different natural disasters or terrible things that happen around the globe.
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Williams?
Yeah, sure.
Do you read the Bible?
The woman who comes up to him is talking about prophecies in the Bible and is like, do you know these are all actually all prophecies that are coming true from the Bible? Because he writes on these natural disasters that are happening.
Matthew 24, verse 7 says that there shall be famines, pestilence, and earthquakes in divers places.
Which Christians do a lot. Like, I've heard Christians say this a lot, like, how can you not believe in the Bible? How can you not believe in Christianity? Like, all of these prophecies are coming true from the Bible, and it'll be things like war and rumors of war, which has always happened ever since I was written in the Bible. It'll be people turning away from God, which has always been the case. Not everybody believes the same things. There's always going to be people who don't believe in what you believe in, or it'll be something about the blood moon, stuff that has just always happened. So I have no idea why these people talk as if it is some kind of convincing prophecy that's happening, because it's not a prophecy at all. It's things that have always happened. That's like me saying, hey, one day there's going to be an earthquake in California. And one day when that earthquake happens, is it going to be super shocking or super surprising or be like, wow, how could she have possibly known that? No, that's not what people would think because, yeah, eventually certain things will happen. That's just how that works. It's also not impressive prophecy if you're not even going to put a date on it. If you're just going to say this thing will eventually happen, it's just not impressive whatsoever. And the main girl, Chloe, brings up, the daughter who called the mom about coming home, her name is Chloe, she goes up to Chad Michael Murray and that woman who's saying stuff to him about the prophecies in the Bible being fulfilled, and she's basically like, if God is real, why do all these terrible things happen? And this woman says, well, we live in a broken world and God works in mysterious ways, the usual answer to these kinds of questions. Now we finally get to see the man, the myth, the legend, Nicolas Cage, and he's doing something not so great. Right away, he's taking off his wedding ring, he's getting ready to cheat on his wife. I personally liked him better when he was stealing the Declaration of Independence.
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
Now, Chloe and Cameron are sitting down at the airport, and Cameron thanks Chloe for saving him from the crazy Christian lady. and she's just telling him why she's there at the airport and how she flew him to surprise her dad for his birthday. So then they show Nicolas Cage, her dad's name is Ray in this movie. They show him walking through the airport and seeing his daughter. His daughter was like waiting there for him. She knew he would be around the area. I guess he didn't know she would be sitting there waiting for him. So they meet up and they go talk. They like leave Cameron and they go talk amongst themselves. And basically Chloe is saying that like, surprised you haven't left us yet. Surprised you haven't left mom yet. And he denies any of that. He's like, no, I would never do that. I love your mom. I just don't wear my ring when I go fly.
It's in my car. I never wear it when I fly.
AKA. And basically, like, she's like, well, I wouldn't blame you if you left mom because she's drinking the Kool-Aid. So she's referring to her mom being a Christian, which that's a little harsh if you ask me. Now the dad leaves Chloe to go and work his flight, and Chloe and Cameron are talking again inside the airport, and Cameron's talking about the awful stuff he's seen while doing journalism on natural disasters. And Chloe's basically saying she can't believe that people thank God and believe in God during those times. Again, the movie is making it very, very clear that she's a critic and she is a non-believer. Now they're showing two flight attendants. One of the flight attendants is the one that walked in the airport with Chloe's dad, Ray. And basically they're confirming that when they get to London, which is where their flight is going, they're going to meet up. And so basically it seems like they haven't cheated yet, but he plans on cheating on his wife in London. And so now they're showing Chloe and Cameron again together, and Cameron's about to get on this flight, and Cameron's getting on the same flight that her dad is flying as the pilot. And basically an employee at the airport gives Chloe like a envelope with tickets in it and says, hey, can you give this to your dad for me? She opens it and it's U2 tickets, and it's tickets that he bought weeks ago. So essentially her dad knew that, you know, he was going to be canceling on his family for his birthday weeks before this even happened, even though he claimed that he got called into work and that's why he couldn't spend his birthday with his family. He was planning this for a while, and obviously that upsets her because it's confirmation that, yeah, like, he's cheating. Now Cameron is on the flight with Ray. Ray is flying. Cameron is a passenger. I recognize two people on this flight. One is Jordan Sparks, if you guys remember. I think she was from American Idol. Either way, her music was like popular in the early 2000s. And then I also recognized a pirate from Pirates of the Caribbean. His name is Martin Kleba. Hopefully I'm saying that right. It's just so funny to see who's in these movies. Now we see Chloe leaving the airport and she's getting in her dad's car, I guess, to drive her dad's car home. And she sees his wedding ring. She's obviously upset. And so now Chloe drove to her mom's house to visit her mom and her younger brother. Her younger brother seems to be about like 10. So her and her mom are hanging out and talking, and Chloe brings up the crazy lady at the airport. But as she's saying it, she's realizing how it sounds and that it's like hurting her mom's feelings, because she's saying that a lady is crazy for bringing up biblical prophecy, but that's obviously what her mom believes as well, so she just kind of like stops talking about it. But her mom tells her that she just wants her to understand where she's coming from.
This is important to me. I just want you to be ready.
Ready for what?
So obviously when her mom's saying that she just wants her to be ready, she's talking about the rapture. She wants her to be ready for the rapture. And then they get into it a little bit because her mom says Chloe isn't letting her talk, and Chloe gives her some criticisms towards her beliefs and says God is the reason her dad isn't there right now. Basically talking about how the mom's beliefs are ruining their family or her mom and dad's relationship. Now Chloe leaves her mom's house and she's going to leave, and her little brother is wanting to come along, and she goes, okay, you can come. And while they're in the car, the little brother's asking Chloe, do you actually think mom's crazy? Do you think she's crazy? And of course, Chloe doesn't want to tell him that she thinks her mom is crazy. So she's like, no, like, we've just been in disagreements. Now her and her brother at the mall together walking around, and they stop and Chloe hugs him. And then all of a sudden her little brother goes poof.
I missed you, buddy.
I won't lie, this scene is funny to me, acted out. Something that is supposedly like super traumatic looks very, very corny in this scene. And it is, I know a lot of people have suffered from like religious trauma when it comes to Rapture Theology, because it is a scary thought. But I don't know, obviously these movies are going to be a little corny, so it is funny. And it's honestly pretty healing to me to be able to laugh at it now, because see it acted out is just so funny. I don't know. To me, it's funny in this movie specifically. And so you know the drill. If you grew up with Rapture Theology, all Christians and all children are going to be raptured because of this thing of age of accountability. Age of accountability isn't in the Bible, like, at all. But it's this belief that once you hit a certain age, then you can make the decision to be a Christian or not, but before that age, you would automatically go to heaven when you die. I genuinely think this is a belief to just make people feel more comfortable, because the idea of worshiping a God who sends kids and babies to burn for all of eternity in hell makes them super uncomfortable. Again, this is only a belief with some Christians. This isn't like a universal Christian belief. But I do think the people who hang on to this are people who feel uncomfortable with worshiping a God who would burn little kids and babies. Understandable. So they have to come up with this age of accountability thing that isn't within the Bible. But yeah, everybody starts poofing away, the believers and the kids, and clothes are literally falling from the sky. Which is weird to me, because some people, when they poof away, they just, like, their clothes are just left right there. But then some are falling out of the sky. Like, why are people losing their clothes at different times? I don't know. That's weird to me. Also, was this a Starbucks ad? If that was a Starbucks ad, that makes it so much funnier to me. So people are disappearing all over the place. They're disappearing at the mall, on the plane. Ray's co-pilot gets raptured, so it's just him piloting now. We see cars driving through the walls at the mall because the people who were driving got raptured, I guess. Basically, all hell is breaking loose. Everyone is sprinting around screaming. There are a lot of people randomly looting, of course. They gotta get their bags. We have planes falling from the sky.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. And right now, you can save £50 per person. That's £200 off for a family of 4.
We have buses running off bridges. Every single fun thing you could think of that would happen if suddenly 30% of Earth's population just randomly disappeared. Except it probably wouldn't even be 30%, depending on what Christian you ask. It would probably be much lower because, you know, depending on what Christian you ask, their definition of what a real Christian is going to change. So not even every Christian would get raptured if they're not like a real Christian, I guess. Also, of course, Cameron, the investigative journalist, is recording all of this like it's another natural disaster of some sort. He's asking people questions, and obviously many people are in despair, especially the moms who can't find their kids who have been raptured, which is a bit disturbing to see because, yeah, obviously they would be freaking out. And then we get a random girl on the plane doing drugs saying, "This is just a bad trip. It happened before. It won't last forever," while proceeding to take more drugs.
I've had them before.
Now we see a plane coming towards Ray's plane that he's flying. And yeah, it's because the other plane's pilot got raptured. I'm sure you probably guessed that. But of course, because Nicolas Cage is Nicolas Cage, he was able to turn the plane so they just barely hit the other plane, but they did take some damage to their plane. Also, while all this is happening, people on the flight are blaming this one Muslim that's on the flight, saying, like, just kind of like staring at him and like giving him the weird side eye. And he's like, "Do you guys really think terrorists could develop a weapon like this?" And low-key, the plane probably would start blaming a Muslim if there was a Muslim on the flight. That is not, in the United States, that isn't far-fetched in the slightest. The whole time this is happening, Chloe has essentially been running around looking for her brother, and obviously hasn't been having any luck, since he's with Jesus now. And she ends up at a hospital, and it's full-blown chaos as expected. And then she goes to the newborn nursery part of the hospital, and as you can guess, they're all gone. We see Chloe finally make it to her mom's house. And on her way there, she's seeing a bunch of people on the sidewalk on the side of the street holding their loved ones' clothing, really distraught that they disappeared. including a dog without their owner. I guess they really had to take it there. You've gone too far. Now the plane is starting to get a little crazy because remember, they took some damage, so now essentially part of the wing is not doing so great. So that's fun for them. Now Ray's mistress comes in the cockpit and Ray tells his mistress, or soon to be mistress, what's really going down, and that this is the Rapture. And he knows this because the co-pilot was wearing a watch that had John 3:16 written on the face of it, and then the purse of the one flight attendant, there was a planner in her purse that said Bible study written on it. So Ray is like, my wife told me this would happen and I just didn't listen. And the mistress is like, shut up, you're crazy, and you lied to me about being married. So she's upset. At some point during all this, Jordan Sparks pulls a gun on everybody. And she's just kind of she's like paranoid and going a little crazy, thinking that they all pulled this trick on her to be able to steal her daughter because her husband is like a famous football player. So I guess she thought that he paid everyone to trick her so that way he could take his daughter. I don't know. Now we see Chloe. She has left her mom's house and she shows up at a church. She sees her old pastor there, and her pastor's like, it's true, it's the Rapture. And she's like, then why are you still here, little bro? And he's like, basically, I was faking it, girl. I studied all the words, but I didn't truly believe. Which in my mind, it's kind of suggesting you can't force yourself to believe. Like, I don't think they realize that they put that in there, that's how it seems, but that's how that seemed, that is how that scene seemed to me, where he's like, yeah, I did all the studying, I did all I could, but I still couldn't bring myself to believe. Again, telling us that belief isn't fully a choice like that. You can't just decide to believe. If you're not convinced, you're not convinced, just like this pastor. The pastor says one of the reasons God took everybody was to save them from persecution. Right. So next, the pilot Ray finally gets a hold of air traffic controller. He couldn't this whole time. He couldn't get a hold of anybody. He finally gets a hold of somebody. And the air traffic controller is like, hey, you can't land at JFK, because they turned around because they didn't have the fuel to make it to where they were going. And he was like, hey, there's nowhere for you to land at JFK because of everything going on. And Ray is like, well, tough titties, because I am running out of fuel because my wing is damaged and it's losing fuel. So you're going to have to clear a path for me. But then he loses contact with him, and he's like, well, I'm just going to have to hope for the best, basically. And during all of this, Ray is talking to Cameron. Him and Cameron have been, like, kind of buddies throughout this whole thing. He's telling Cameron about how he really wishes he would have listened to his wife. Then after Chloe is at the church, they show her climbing up this really tall tower type of thing for some reason. I'm unsure why. They kind of made it seem like she was going to off herself. But then she gets a call from Cameron, and she gets to talk to Cameron and her dad, and they express how much regret they have about the whole thing.
Mom told me about this.
I know she told me to.
So the main point here is the feeling of regret of being upset that they didn't listen to the Christians, I guess. Then her dad tells her about the problem they're having about the landing situation, so Chloe races off to an area where they can land. And she finds a random motorcycle. She drives to this area where they can land. She gets in a truck, and she basically just starts clearing out a landing space for them and, like, pushing a bunch of things to the side. And she also lights a fire/explosion so that they can see where they need to land down on the ground. During all this happening is actually this super sweet scene where the Muslim man, who they were all, like, trying to blame earlier, goes up and comforts this older woman with dementia whose husband got raptured.
How are you? You mind if I sit down for a moment? Just until your husband gets back from the bathroom.
It was honestly a really sweet and sad moment. So Chloe was able to clear a path and get them to see it, and they make it. Just with a couple scratches and such. But they hurry up and get off the plane. But then that sweet Muslim man I was talking about earlier pulls this little number. I guess he was tired of that guy's shit, because that guy earlier was the one pointing the finger at him saying you caused all of this. So it's a happy ending. I mean, besides the fact that now it's the beginning of the tribulation, so they're gonna have to suffer for like 7 years. Besides that, I mean, it's a happy ending. I guess. The last visual is a Bible verse on the screen that says Mark 12:32, but of the day and that hour knoweth no man. So basically nobody can know when the rapture is going to happen. So a lot of fear mongering in this movie, to say the very least. I know rapture theology is something that has impacted many of us. Although I can laugh about it now, it is something that causes people a lot of pain, especially kids growing up being taught rapture theology. I cannot tell you how many comments I've gotten on TikTok videos when I've talked about rapture theology of how badly rapture theology has impacted people. And it makes sense because it is used as a fear tactic. The entire point of it is to make people afraid, to also make people afraid that they will have regrets if they don't listen. And we see that a lot in this movie, where it's like, if only I would have listened. That's the message they want to get across. And fear is a powerful tool, and this type of theology is proof of that. It works. Unfortunately, fear works, and they know that. From my understanding, though, rapture theology is not a major belief among Christians. It's just a really popular belief among American evangelicals, which isn't something I knew until much later in life. I assumed, because growing up in it, that all Christians believed in rapture theology, and it's always been a thing. That is not the case. It wasn't a thing until the 1800s, and then didn't get popular until the 1900s. It's very much a new addition to Christianity. If this is something that has really negatively impacted you, I want to recommend Recovery from Religion, where you can chat with people it can be through like an online chat or a phone call. They have support groups. This is something that really heavily impacts people, which isn't a shock. It's a very traumatizing thing to tell kids that whenever, at any moment, everyone you love and care for could disappear and you could be left alone on this earth to suffer for 7 years. That's pretty traumatic for kids to hear, and honestly isn't a kid-friendly thing to even be telling children anyway, to make them constantly paranoid and fearful if they don't believe or don't listen to a specific set of beliefs. And even if they do believe in God, or want to believe in God, they still can be horrified of it. I know that I was. But yeah, there are resources if you're somebody out there who's struggling with that kind of thing. I think that I'm going to continue with the Left Behind series. I think I'm going to do the actual one that has multiple movies. I barely remember what's in those movies. I think I maybe watched them one time through when I was very young, so those movies will be interesting. In between that, I think I'm going to do one Christmas movie, hopefully. So excited for that. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you think about this movie, and if you've watched it. I didn't know this movie existed for the longest time for some reason. It is so funny to me that that Nicolas Cage and Chad Michael Murray are in this. It makes me wonder what they think about this movie and this like type of theology in general. I really want to know. But yeah, I hope you guys are taking care of yourselves. I hope you're doing good. I will see you in the next one.